Welcome back. So, let's talk about the Duck, the HS-129B3. So, the HS-129B3 goes on one by STG-2. It's one of the attack wings. It's like a white shield with a black cross. They can use some of the BF-110s. It is a battle rating 1 plane, and it very much so feels like a BR-1 plane. But it can also bring tremendous firepower, and it can be a really fun, really interesting addition to your lineup. But it's like a scalpel. It's very, very, very specific in its use, and anything outside of that use, it is completely incapable of. So, if you haven't looked at this plane before, and you don't know anything about it from the past, what sets it apart? Well, unlike the other HS-129s, this one has a 75mm cannon. It only has 13 rounds for it, but it's still a plane with a 75mm cannon. Now, in all of their glory, did Darkflow think to make this a versatile plane? Well, I've already kind of alluded to that. The answer is no, it is not versatile at all. It is good at killing tanks, and that is it, nothing else. So, my first and my biggest gripe, and I mentioned this when they previewed it, is that I hoped that it would get a mixed belt, so like 1 AP shot, 1 HE shot, right, and alternate back and forth. I think it needs that. Even if they bump it up to like BR2, honestly, I don't care if they bump it up to BR2. I don't play BR1. I play BR2 or 3 or 4 or 5. Well, actually, it's like, normally it's 2 or 3 or 5. But regardless, with this plane, it's a very flawed plane. It is not fast. It says it's got a maximum speed of 460, but good luck getting there. Only in a dive. It is not the most airworthy plane either. Now, I haven't spent all the silver to like fully upgrade this yet, so it might feel a little bit better with like maxed out upgrades, because it does get like 10% more engine power, and it does get a little bit more power in its compressor and its radiator. But the thing is, I mean, I've flown this a lot in War Thunder, so I kind of knew what I was getting into. This is the kind of plane where you need your flaps to turn, or you start losing altitude. Like, it's not a plane that likes to stay in the air. In my experience, your best bet, if you're going to do an attack run with this plane, is to start at least 500 meters, and at least, well, probably not at least, but no more than like 1 kilometer, maybe a little bit over, like 1.2 kilometers out. Because if you come in from any further out and you start your dive, or if you come in much lower than that, you run the risk of not being able to pull the plane up before you hit something. Also, it kind of helps to dive on your targets, because most vehicles have like weaker roof armor than, say, shooting them in the side or the front or whatever. Now the nice thing is, this is an auto-loading 75, so you're gonna get like a dunk, dunk, dunk kind of fire rate out of it. Maybe a little bit slower than that, but it's a pretty respectable fire rate. For a gun that only has 13 shots, it's usable. In my experience, popping tanks with it has been awesome. Like, you really do feel like a World War II A-10. Like, if you can see a tank, you can kill the tank. Admittedly, most of what I was running into were T-60s, T-70s, and like BT-5s. Because I mostly was running into the Soviets. I don't think you would have any issues going through the top of a Sherman, though, if you did run into Shermans. The downside, like I mentioned, though, is this is not a mixed belt, so if the other team doesn't have tanks, and they don't have APCs or trucks or anything for you to shoot at, you've got nothing to do. Like, you can shoot at infantry, but you're not going to kill them, not unless you directly hit them with the shell, or you catch them with one of your 7.92 machine guns, which you only have, like, 2 of them. So it's not like you're bringing a whole lot of firepower. The same issue comes if you want to shoot at a plane. If you hit it with the 75, you might kill it, but, like, your 7.92s are not it, Chief. They're not going to do it. most things that you run into can outspeed you and outturn you. Like, you've got a 23-ish second turn rate, and that's assuming that you can turn and, like, you have enough altitude to turn. Like, you're not winning a fight with this thing. You can't realistically go and clear the skies. Like, you might get lucky here and there and tag somebody with the 75, or you might, like, shoot their pilot in the nose with your 792 or whatever. You might get lucky. Or you might run into somebody who's already damaged, or they don't have thumbs or something, and they don't turn their plane, and maybe you shoot them down. But, like, realistically, pretty much every plane that you run into, of any size, of any type, is going to be a predator to you. You can't outrun them, and you can't outturn them, so, you know, good luck. Grab your ankles, I guess. And then, like I said, when it comes to dealing with enemies on the ground, you can shoot at infantry, it's just not going to do that much for you. But when the other team brings out tanks, and people in Enlisted love tanks. I like tanks, you probably love tanks, all of my friends love tanks. I know a lot of people that bring multiple tanks on their lineups. Even I do from time to time, depends on the BR. Tanks can be a lot of fun. So when you run into tanks, especially if the other team has pulled out like 2 tanks, this thing's great. Because you can roll out there, and assuming that you're high enough and far enough out when you start your attack run, and you're a good enough shot, because the shots do drop, and you know you have to obviously compensate for that. But if you can see them, you can probably hit them, and if you can hit them, you can kill them. So you can take out like 2 tanks in one pass, if they're close enough together and you're far enough out and high enough. If not, you can just circle around and hit them in the second pass, and it's not. What are they going to do? They can go hide behind a building, or they can blow up, and they would have to actually recognize that you have an HS-129, and that you're actually there to hunt them. And you have to also not crash into a building when you blow up the first one. The little thing that you kind of have to make sure you don't do. But even playing this thing up into like BR3 or BR4, I imagine it would play pretty well. I haven't actually played it up a whole lot. I was mostly playing BR2 Germany, so running into some BR3 tanks here and there. But like, it's not like I brought it into a BR5 game. But for what it's designed to do, it fulfills that role very, very well, and I appreciate that. My only other thing, though, is like the flight performance is predictably terrible. So, in the future, if we get the ME-410 with the 50 mil and it has like HVAP, that thing's gonna be nuts, because the ME-410 actually does have halfway decent flight performance. It's not fantastic by any stretch, but it's a lot better than this. And I can really dream, if we ever get the ME-262 Narwhal, oh, dude, it's over. Bringing an ME-262 Narwhal into top-tier games and just like zoom climbing and diving on like IS-2s, I can only fantasize so much. Like, oh, that'd be great. I really do hope we get that. I mean, we'll probably get the Sturmvogel before that, just because ME-262 with bombs, or even just like a basic ME-262 with like no air-to-ground weapons. I could see both of those coming first, but I would love to get a Narwhal. So, let me know what you think. Have you flown it yet? It's not that far into the tech tree. It's folded behind the other HS-129, right? Not the other HS-29, behind the POTES. I guess we don't actually have the normal HS-129, do we? That'd be interesting if they added. To be honest, I don't know how much it would be able to do, but it's folded behind the POTES at the 3rd plane in the list in Tier 1, like right before the IAR. You could definitely make the argument for bringing the POTES over it, because the POTES gets bombs, or for just bringing the IAR because you can double as a fighter and a bomber. I think the versatility of the other planes, if you're only going to bring one plane, does mean that those planes are probably more worthwhile to bring. But if you hate tanks, if you're sick of people sitting in the gray zone and you just want to ruin their day, this plane's fantastic. It really does feel like an A-10. Like you feel like God rolling in. You know, you're sitting there 500 meters up in the air, like 1,000 meters out, nose down. You've got this big telescopic sight. You put it right on the tank. You just dunk, 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 and all of a sudden there's just a fireball down there. Tank's gone. Like, it's so cool. It is so cool. Plus, you know, being on the ground and seeing one fly by and just hearing this cannon go off is cool. It's a really cool addition to the game. But like I said, let me know what you think down below. What's your experience been? Are you a Russian that's fed up with German flying tanks blowing your tank up? Or maybe you're a German and you're just happy that the Soviet armor is getting obliterated? I like them. I think they're cool. As per usual, get out there, kick ass, take names, and win your games.